Hi everyone, it's Chenzo from Reality Art Pod here to talk about the challenge All Stars 5, Episode 7 titled Old Friends, New Rivals. Last week on the challenge, Sam and Frank scratched off a win in the daily challenge, and after some romper room, circus like tomfoolery from Veronica and Katie, Dario and Ashley were sent into elimination against Big T and Corey, where ultimately Big T and Corey couldn't find the balance to stay in the game. Before I dive in, I put a link in the description to my playlist where you can catch up on my previous recaps. If you like the content, consider liking and subscribing. My recaps aren't meant to replace the original material, so if you missed the episode, I highly encourage you to seek it out and form your own opinion. I also put a link in the description so you can try Paramount Plus for free and binge tons of challenge and the challenge all-stars. But let's dive into it. The episode starts with a lot of very important strategy. The day after the elimination, Ashley and Dario sync up to start the pronoun investigation as to who the quote-unquote they were that were spreading lies ahead of last week's deliberation. Reminder, the they are Veronica and Katie. Melissa is feeling alone already without her friend Big T, and now she has Amber telling Melissa Corey's information that Veronica and Frank are the notorious they. Frank is not part of the they, and Amber saying Frank will create a big misunderstanding. Davon reminds us she's aligned with the stronger players, but Shane is allied with the weaker players, and Davon has a newfound sisterhood with Nani specifically. Elsewhere, Veronica continues spreading that the strong players need to go, but Veronica's longtime friend Shane is annoyed that Frank and Sam joined this alliance. Shane feels like he and Davon are being pushed out of it. Veronica tells Shane that she wants to target Nani and Turbo this week, but Shane isn't down because of the previously mentioned sisterhood between Nani and Davon. Frank has other plans too. He wants to target Adam and Steve, neither of whom have been anywhere in sight this episode until the daily challenge called Blow Your Mind, where players will start on opposite ends of lanes. They need to memorize images of clocks, detonating them and burning them as they move closer to the center, and in the center, recreate everything they memorized along the way. The winner will be the fastest, most accurate team. So they get started. There's a lot for them to memorize. Steve deems himself the king of analog clocks like Flava Flav. Yeah, boy! The clocks are boring, but it's really cool when they detonate them and burn them. Fessy shares with us that he's very mature now. He has dogs and a girlfriend back home. He proves he's mature by jumping through the fire. Mothers across America screaming, "You're gonna burn yourself!" The teams get to their puzzles, where Veronica and Katie say their plan is to go slow and steady, which has also been their strategy in literally every other daily challenge this season. Dario buzzes in first, which psychs everyone out, causing a few other teams to buzz in a panic. The challenge comes down to Shane and Davon and Veronica and Katie, and in the end, the most accurate team and winners of the daily are Veronica and Katie. So they'll get to pick a team to send into the jungle. Later, the They's alliance meets and shortlist the options to Nani and Turbo, Amber and Fessy, and Ashley and Dario. But first, they have to do the house vote, and elsewhere, Davon and Nani agree to flip the house to target Frank and Sam for the house pick, with the goal of Davon and Shane facing them in elimination and stealing their star. The players head to the club, where Shane loops Nicole and Melissa in on this plan. Everyone is turning the hell up. Somehow, Veronica divines out of thin air that the house is targeting Frank and Sam, and when they get back to the house, Veronica is wine drunk and wasted. But drunk Veronica gets Nicole to reveal that Veronica's longtime friend Shane has been going behind her back to ruin her plan. Melissa then tells Katie and Veronica that the house is calling them the they. Frank thinks that Shane was behind ratting all of this out. Melissa and Nicole then argue after this conversation, basically just calling each other stupid repeatedly. The house gets back to strategizing, with the weak and strong players campaigning for Melissa and Nicole's votes, who end up being the swing vote here, and they head to the deliberation outside where the weather is terrible. Why not move it inside? But the deliberation is just as messy as the weather. Amber quickly confronts Frank, calling him the they and the biggest snake in the house. The editing of this fight with the music was incredible, honestly, and they get to voting, with votes piling in for Frank and Sam and Amber and Fessy, but Melissa and Nicole vote for Fessy and Amber, with Nicole admitting that she's doing it because she's afraid of Veronica. So Amber and Fessy are going into elimination, but following this, Frank is popping off at the house. Shane is happy that Frank is reverting back to his old ways, being angry and mad, but Shane was responsible for the series of events that got Frank to this point, and Sam sees that. Nobody is happier than Veronica and Katie, who celebrate their plan being successful by hip bumping in the bedroom, getting ready to draw blood at elimination. Later at the jungle, Amber and Fessy are as united as ever, and Katie and Veronica choose to send in Nani and Turbo. They'll be playing Scratch Off, where players will have to use coins to scratch off a board to reveal an image, then recreate the image on their puzzle board. The first team to complete their puzzle will win the elimination. So they get started, revealing their picture that's obviously a cast photo. I don't see the need to really scratch this off when they could start the puzzle at any time. Turbo is whipping through it, and we can't really see what's going on their puzzle boards, but Turbo and Nani end up quickly winning the elimination without much suspense. So we have to say goodbye to Fessy and Amber, starting with Fessy, who largely did nothing this season, being a really boring character, but he played a decent enough social game. game, playing really well in times when he was in power, and seems to have really gotten his act together enough to play like a veteran reality strategist. Though I do think he's losing a bit of his edge and the fun parts of his storylines, which kind of takes away the appeal of having him on a cast. He redeemed himself with Amber, treating her with respect for the entirety, and showed that he's still a great competitor, which is why they end up targeted and eliminated in such a silly elimination that I'm sure doesn't even bruise his ego that he lost. I would like to see him again, but I think he needs to find a real good personal storyline. And Amber, who's always so interesting to watch, her growth journey over seasons of being this consistent, scrappy underdog despite being a champ continues, as I still don't feel people give her enough credit or take her seriously enough in the game. I like that she piped up and stood up for herself, even in this episode, starting a fight with Frank at the elimination, though I think the strategy is still lacking. She was led astray multiple times this season, starting with trusting Veronica, despite Veronica plotting behind her back consistently and definitely not being a good friend. Amber was even told by Corey that Veronica and Katie were the they, and she still didn't confront Veronica, but came for Frank, who, yes, was involved, but she really should have been taking issue with Veronica for multiple infractions. And I don't know why she didn't, because she was clearly feeling froggy. I would take her on a cast 10 times out of 10 for this messiness, though, and her overall likability. This episode ends with a monologue from Frank proclaiming that he's the mastermind of the season. So the show is either setting Frank up to look really cool or really silly. Let me know in the comments, which do you think it is? What did you think of this episode and Fessy and Amber's departure? If you liked the video, consider liking and subscribing. I'll be back next week with more challenge. I'm also recapping Survivor 48. You know where to find me. Bye.